Part 89. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 888. At this moment, the Bone Bodhisattva was extremely panicked. Eyes raised. The thunder clouds in the sky roared and turned into a giant thunder hand, grabbing at him from top to bottom. Eyes lowered. The earth surged, setting off a shocking wave of sand, which turned into a sky-holding rock hand and grabbed it upwards. All directions were blocked. The only supernatural channel through which he could escape safely was ruthlessly defeated. At that time, there was only one last way left for him. That is to retreat backwards. Temporarily hiding in the second Luo Fengtian, eliminating his traces and waiting for the opportunity to return. However, this opportunity has also been ruined. Because right below him, the pagan in luxurious clothes and with an excited smile was stretching out a finger. At the end of his finger, a beam of extremely terrifying energy was taking shape in front of him, as if it could be fired at any time. He came out and penetrated his already disintegrated body. Such a strong sense of death is definitely not a lie. He had an intuition that if he really dared to run out of this range, the other party would kill him without hesitation. The kind that destroys bones and scatters ashes. Under normal circumstances, he is naturally not afraid of such a childish threat. Even if he dies, with his powerful supernatural power of world-destroying ghosts and gods, he can be revived again in as short as 3 to 5 years or as long as more than 10 years. This amount of time is nothing to a world-destroying ghost and god. But now, he was afraid. Because this man is suspected to be an ancient existence from the same period as my Buddha, and is a member of the immortal gods who only exist in legends. For such an existence, he could not guarantee that the other party would not be able to completely kill him. Once it crashes, it is likely to mean that it will never be able to be revived. He couldn't bear this price. Think of this. The Bone Bodhisattva was filled with grief and anger. Mad. Bullying ghosts is too much. Hiding is a dead word. If you don't hide, it's still a word of death. Is there any other choice? I admit that I spoke a little too loudly and arrogantly just now, but it's not a crime that would lead to death. Just thinking about it? Before the Bone Bodhisattva could continue to think, the giant hands holding the sky from both sides began to close. The Bone Bodhisattva was shocked. There was a bright light in his eyes. He raised his hands and feet at the same time to resist this terrifying force, which was like the collision of heaven and earth. Just for a moment. One hand of the Bone Bodhisattva was completely broken, and one foot was also shattered from the middle. The human head lotus platform under his feet was crushed into powder, and the ghost inside would be squeezed into a pile of bones at any time. Ah! The painful wail sounded again. This time, immediately aroused the overwhelming resentment of this world-destroying ghost and god. He desperately held onto the giant hands that were raised up and down, and let out a ferocious roar, "Don't think that I am afraid of you. The worst is, we will die together, and all the gods and Buddhas in the sky will disappear. I don't believe that you, a born immortal god, there will be no injuries at all, and there will be no restrictions at all." The words fell. A skeleton hand and a skeleton leg that fell to the ground immediately turned into a molten skeleton nail and drove towards Shenjian. The weirdest thing is that this coffin nail was obviously flying in a straight line, but in everyone's sight, the surrounding space seemed to be pulled closer, and the skeleton nail that had just flown out was already nailed to Shenjian's chest. The flying process in the middle and the possible evasive behavior of the enemy were all ignored, and it was directly nailed to the target. This time, the ghosts were shocked. The method of destroying world-level ghosts and gods is actually so weird. Doesn't it mean that as long as it is shot, the enemy will be hit? Gan. This is too unreasonable. Unless you don't give the opponent a chance to take action, otherwise the action will definitely hit. Who the hell can afford it? What a scoundrel! Besides, where is the fourth prince? Is he okay? If this was reversed by headwinds, their mentality would collapse. The other side. Looking at the skeleton nail nailed to Shenjian's chest, the bone bodhisattva was stunned at first, and then overjoyed. You are indeed not a fairy. You can't even avoid this method. It seems that I am the better one and I win. The words have not yet fallen. Shenjian had already reached out and pulled out the skeleton nails. It can be seen that the skeleton nails were indeed nailed in, but they did not even damage the skin. Let alone penetrate deep into the heart, they could not even cause skin trauma. Just nailed it? Wrong. To be more precise, it's hanging on top. Bone Bodhisattva. The smile on his face suddenly froze. My heart was horrified to the extreme. Although he said that the skeleton nail seemed to be ordinary and supernatural, in fact, it was a fatal blow fused with the body of his world-destroying ghost and god. Once nailed, even beings of the same level must be restrained in place for more than 5 seconds. During this period, not only can they not move, but even supernatural and yin energy cannot move at all. It's the taboo supernatural thing he keeps at the bottom of the box. If the target is replaced by a ghost or god, then once this skeleton is nailed, the other party will not be able to revive again for eternity. But now, his taboo supernatural ability can't even cause skin trauma to the opponent. What a joke. The bone bodhisattva trembled all over. The joker revives? He once heard my Buddha talk about the time when the sky was full of gods and Buddhas. At that time, the gods and gods were the rulers of the world, but they were not immortal. They would be injured even if they were attacked. If they suffered fatal injuries, the gods would also fall. At this point, ghosts have an inherent advantage. The supernatural beings are immortal and the evil ghosts are immortal. Even if the supernatural power dissipates, it can revive again after a long period of time. Only. For that man, all laws seem to have lost their effect. This allowed the bone bodhisattva to break his defense on the spot. Desperate. Is this the immortal god? This is the first time that bone bodhisattva has a clear understanding of the gods and Buddhas in the sky that my Buddha talks about. Just one glance caused his ghost body to disintegrate. Just grab him and he will be trapped in heaven and earth. Even if you stand still, you can't do anything with other means. Grass. Not a single flaw. Brother, you are a hexagonal god of war. That's outrageous. The bone bodhisattva almost wanted to vomit blood and said with a stiff face. I said I was just obsessed with my mind. Do you believe it? Hear the words. Shenjian weighed the skeleton nail in his hand and grinned. Donor, you have a lot of resentment in your heart. This is not good. If you keep your resentment deep in your heart for a long time, you will become depressed in the future. But it doesn't matter. I happen to have some research on Buddhism, so I will help you let go of your hatred, and guide you to learn on the right path. As the saying goes, put down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha immediately. Shenjian smiled very sickly. Yin energy poured into the mouth, and the words of ghosts and gods were activated. He also took out the ghost heart with hypnotic powers. A mouth. It stirred up the heaven and the earth. Invisible sound waves rolled in. The bone bodhisattva was shocked and his mind was buzzing. He shook his head desperately, but the sound still lingered. The words "put down the butcher knife and become a Buddha immediately" kept echoing in my mind. Let it go, let it go. The bone bodhisattva was stunned for a moment, and his eyes seemed to be in a trance. The next second, he suddenly woke up. His eyes looked like he had seen a ghost. Are you trying to convert me? His face was filled with disbelief. A skeleton with a face full of distortions. The bones crackled. He really couldn't imagine that this man was actually trying to save him and transform him into a Buddha. Use the best tricks of my Buddhist country to deal with my Buddha? How unthinkable are you? Hitting an egg against a stone is not so blunt as hitting an egg against a stone. If you can save me, I will. The Bone Bodhisattva is thinking. The sounds of ghosts and gods echoing in my mind became even denser. His thoughts were in a daze for a longer period of time. There is already a tendency to let go of hands and feet. This time, the Bone Bodhisattva did not dare to exaggerate. He yelled twistedly, "Impossible, what method did you use? You will never be able to quantify me." He howled in pain. Shenjian stepped forward and came to the Bone Bodhisattva with a look of compassion on his face, its sincerity. "I'm urging you to turn back. My child, you are on the wrong track. Only I can save you." The Bone Bodhisattva maintained his last trace of consciousness. The corners of his mouth twitched. "Mad. Can you please stop using my standard words of persuading people to learn Buddhism to try to convert me? It's so humming against the grain. You're such a fool, you don't even want to think of a new way of saying things, so you just stick to them. You will insult me with precision," he complained while fighting against the murmurs filling his brain. The voice of "Put down the butcher knife and become a Buddha" immediately became louder and clearer, almost bursting his brain. The trance in his eyes became more and more frequent. "No. Impossible. I am already a Buddha, so why do I need to be saved again?" The Bone Bodhisattva gritted his teeth and roared out these words. The aura in his eyes became more and more intense. He looked like he was about to break free. "See this?" Shenjian sighed. Those who have studied Buddhism and understand psychological construction are difficult to deal with. If it were a normal world-destroying ghost and god, under the dual influence of the ghost's words and the hypnotic supernatural power, he would have been successfully brainwashed on the spot. But not much different. Then Shenjian shouted in a low voice, "Idiot! You're obsessed." The words of ghosts and gods stirred up again. It's like a wake-up call. The clarity in White Bone Bodhisattva's eyes immediately disappeared, replaced by an unusual piety. This piety is only for Shenjian. Aiming at the man who made him put down his butcher knife and become a Buddha immediately. "My dear, have you realized it?" Shenjian opened his mouth. The Bone Bodhisattva piously said, "Master, I have realized that my sins are extremely evil and I deserve to be judged." The next second. Click. The arms and legs of the White Bone Bodhisattva supporting the two giant hands holding the sky also cracked and broke into two pieces, leaving only one head intact. But at this time, he had no intention of struggling at all. Instead, he wanted to let two giant hands holding up the sky beat him to death. Shenjian has quick eyesight and quick hands. "Caught the head out," he said with an expression of hatred and hatred, "Cheater, you are dead, who will lead me to destroy the source of your sin? Your consciousness is not high enough." Bone Bodhisattva. He was stunned for a moment. Then suddenly, looking ashamed, "Master, I am guilty. It's okay, I forgive you." Shenjian expressed it very generously. Below. Whether it was the eldest prince, the third princess, or the nobles who witnessed this scene, they were all stunned. A pair of titanium alloy dog eyes almost bulged out. "What the hell are you, what the hell are you doing, for fooling a world-destroying ghost and god into lameness? Damn it! We don't even support the wall, but we support you. That's outrageous." End of chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigwa. Chapter 889. On the field. Seeing this scene that subverted common sense, everyone was dumbfounded. The majestic world-destroying ghost and god, and a genuine ghost Buddha, was deceived by His Highness the fourth prince and became lame. There was only piety and obedience in his eyes, and there was no trace of the sinister and penetrating aura before. But become peaceful. Gan. Brother, Please understand your identity. You are a ghost. You will not become a Buddha just by putting down your butcher knife. It's okay if you deceive others. Why have I been deceived now? This is just too raw. A big departure. Below. Not only the ghosts were stunned, but the three princesses were also completely confused. For the first time, a pair of golden eyes became irrational, like a madman, and said sharply, "Bone Bodhisattva, you have been brainwashed. The man in front of you is the one who really caused you to end up like this. You were fooled. The ghost sound is rolling. Echoes in the sky. It seems that he is planning to wake up his backer." The bone Bodhisattva turned his head, and the head with only a skeleton left turned around, looking very strange. "Donor, I'm not a fool, I don't have amnesia, and I clearly remember everything that just happened, but I don't think it was brainwashing. The master just gave me some advice, and then I figured it out on my own." The bone Bodhisattva opened his mouth. The skeleton frame opens and closes, making a crisp collision sound. "That's right, I clearly just established a correct belief for him. I didn't expect that he would be misunderstood to this extent. It's so sad." Shenjian also spoke, saying sad words. There was a strange smile on his face. "Master, don't be upset. I, the Buddha, also said that people without wisdom are born stupid and need more time to educate them. Then do you think I, the third princess, have wisdom?" "Master, I don't curse." "Third princess." She was completely speechless. God really doesn't want to curse. The two of you sang along and scolded me for being stupid, right? Monks don't lie, but you don't use curse words when you curse. What an old sow wearing a bra, one said after another. At the same time that she couldn't hold back any longer, the third princess felt a chill in her heart. The more normal the white bone bodhisattva is, the more it shows that Shenjian's methods are weird and unpredictable, which is heart-stopping. It turns out that a world-destroying ghost and god from the Buddhist kingdom was transformed into another personality by Shenjian in a few words. This can be explained by simple hypnosis and brainwashing. It's all about the distortion of one individual into another. Even the other party's thinking has been rewritten. Even if you are a believer in the glorious ghosts and gods, I am afraid that you do not have such a devout belief. This moment, Shenjian's image in her mind became increasingly mysterious and unpredictable. A feeling of despair and powerlessness enveloped her heart. Because she lost. Completely lost. Even the trick she was least willing to use to suppress the situation could not have an impact on this fourth brother. It can be said. She was at her wit's end. "You win." When the third princess said these words, the energy in her eyes seemed to disappear in an instant, leaving only decay. Then she turned and left. The back looked sad and lonely. Apparently, she had given up the idea of dealing with the fourth prince. The eldest prince and the second prince gritted their teeth and looked at them with splitting eyes. Their fists were tightened again and again, and their nails were sunk deeply into the flesh, but they still didn't notice. Even if they don't want to admit it, they did lose. A complete failure. After all, even the real world destroying ghosts and gods have been converted and become loyal followers of Shenjian. With such strength, which royal heir is qualified to compete with him? Not to mention the princes and daughters, even their father was, to some extent, inferior to Shenjian. In this situation, even if the royal power is given to them, they have no chance to hold on. They had no choice but to admit defeat. Immediately, the figures of the eldest prince and the second prince could not help but be bent a little. He said angrily, "Fourth brother, you win." Finished. They also walked away. However, at this time, Shenjian's voice suddenly swayed, and his tone was faint. "When did I say that you can leave?" The words fell. "One stone stirs up 1,000 waves." The eldest prince, the second prince, and the third princess trembled in shock. The three of them turned around. Staring at Shen Jian, who was slowly hanging the bone bodhisattva's head on his waist in the distance, he said in a bad tone, "Fourth brother, we have given in defeat. You have won. This throne is already yours. What else do you want to do?" Shen Jian sneered, "Come when you want, leave when you want. Where do you have the face? Do you think you are like me, and you can't have face? What do you want to do?" The eldest prince's eyes turned sinister again. "You openly attracted world-destroying ghosts and gods, causing the people of the royal city to ignore you. You must be punished for your crime. As for how to deal with you, I haven't decided yet, so I'll leave you hanging for now." Shen Jian waved his hand. The blood-stained hemp rope on the wrists revived, and the nooses were put on, and the three people were hung up. No matter how hard the three of them struggled, they had no choice but to roll their eyes and wave their limbs like clowns under everyone's gaze. A group of nobles. They were shocked. "Damn it! Is this a direct use of lynching? You seem to be not a king yet, how dare you directly impose this kind of punishment on other princes and princesses in public? Isn't this disrespectful to the king?" Ghost Duke Hillis stepped forward and lowered his voice, "Your Highness, this is indeed inappropriate. You are now the only heir to the throne, and countless pairs of eyes are staring at you. Other heirs can ignore this prohibition and make a desperate fight, but you can't, otherwise you'll get into trouble along the way." Shen Jian smiled. He smiled very wildly. "In that case, let's take advantage of this auspicious day to sit on the throne and have some fun. If there is such a change in the royal city, my father must have been waiting for news for a long time." The words fell. Shen Jian turned and left. Three figures hanging in mid-air followed closely behind. Behind them, there were nobles looking at each other with horrified faces. Sit on the throne and have fun? Grass. His Highness the Fourth Prince is planning to force the palace. Royal Palace. The Palace Hall. The old king sat on the throne, waiting for the news to come back. His face was old, like a mummy that was half buried in the earth, and his body was filled with the rotten aura of being buried in the grave. If you ignore the terrifying supernatural fluctuations on his body that are infinitely close to the world-destroying ghosts and gods, he is completely 100-year-old old man. Late, lonely, but unwilling. It's obvious that the time for passing on the throne has arrived, but he still clings to the throne so hard that it's only been less than 2 years since the king's trial began. Just a quarter of an hour ago, an extremely terrifying supernatural threat appeared in the royal city. He was very familiar with that supernatural threat. It is a wave of world-destroying ghosts and gods. At first, he was high-spirited and believed that the rule of theocracy was too rampant and was over-squeezing part of the royal power. As the new king, he united with the 4 major holy families at the time and took the initiative to start a war against the Elim temple, in an attempt to defeat this theocratic power entrenched in the royal power. Unfortunately, the war fell apart before it lasted 3 days. Because the legendary world-destroying ghost and god, the owner of Elim Temple, one of the oldest existences in the horror world, the glorious ghost and god born in the supernatural belief, shows what a true unexplainable supernatural being is. That day, more than 2/3 of the tens of millions of people in the royal city became fanatical believers, and they took the king out and threw him in front of the glorious ghosts and gods. It was that time. Let him know the true horror of world-destroying ghosts and gods. That is enough to subvert the empire with the power of one ghost. He lost almost humiliatingly. Therefore, regarding this supernatural wave of world-destroying ghosts and gods, he subconsciously thought that it was another masterpiece of glorious ghosts and gods, and he did not dare to go out at all. The old king rubbed the colorful gemstone ring in his hand, his eyes full of unwillingness. He was already extremely close to the level of world-destroying ghosts and gods, but he was still unable to advance to the real world-destroying level. He knew that this might be related to the incomplete Luo Fengtian authority he had in his hands. In the first place, Luo Fengtian was in the Qing kingdom. He was not unfamiliar with it. He also knew that the Qing emperor of the Qing kingdom was on the same level as the glorious ghosts and gods. In the third place, Luo Fengtian's owner was also a legendary world-destroying statue. Super Ghost. The difference between him and the two is that he is not the complete master of Luo Fengtian. Although he is the king, he only has half of Luo Fengtian's authority. He suspected that only by possessing the complete authority of Luo Fengtian could he truly be qualified to advance to the world-destroying level of ghosts and gods. Damn old woman! The old king whispered softly. At this time, there was a violent movement outside the palace. There was a bang. The thick door was smashed open. The old king took a look. I saw a figure walking towards me outside the door. The features of the blonde hair and golden eyes allowed him to instantly understand the identity of the other party. It's the fourth prince. Behind him, 3 more figures who were hanging, rolling their eyes and with bruises on their necks floated in. The old king was stunned. What happened? Father, the fourth brother, he lynched us. He doesn't take you seriously at all. The eldest prince had a livid face and struggled to convey his meaning. Fourth, what are you doing? The old king stood up. The supernatural fluctuations that are infinitely close to the world-destroying ghosts and gods sweep through the body. Remember, I'm not dead yet. His tone was solemn. The words were full of coldness. He was unwilling to give up the throne, and now Shen Jian's various behaviors made him feel that he could not abdicate. It would be so disrespectful to not abdicate. If he abdicates, his status will plummet. Hear this. Shen Jian looked calm. He had killed Emperor Qing, let alone an old king. Then he opened his lips slightly and said with an indifferent expression, "You are old, abdicate. Leave this Luo Fengtian, and I can also give you the last dignity." As soon as these words came out, everyone in the audience was shocked. Especially the eyes of the 3 royal heirs who were hanging were wide open. This fourth brother is really brave. You dare to say such things. What is the last bit of decency? If you don't leave, can you kill me on the spot? The old king also felt cold all over. An old grimace showed full ferocity. Fourth, tell me again, what do you want to do? I'll give you one last chance, think about it before you talk. Shen Jian looked the old king up and down, then curled his lips and said, "What? Are you deaf or hard of hearing? Old man, go to hell and stop occupying young people's things." Old king. The rest of the heirs. That's awesome. So awesome. Do your family members know that you are so awesome? You. This time, the old king was really furious. Staring at Shen Jian. Then, he seemed to notice something, and the colorful gemstone ring in his hand flashed from time to time. Luo Fengtian's authority? Do you have the other half's Luo Fengtian's authority? Who are you? Who are you? You are not the fourth child. The old king was stunned at first. Then the ferocious face showed a hint of ecstasy. He actually discovered the authority of his other half, Luo Fengtian, on Shen Jian. This is wonderful. His life should not be cut off. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 890. Inside the palace hall. The old king shouted with great excitement, and the rotten aura on his body dissipated a lot at this moment. The multicolored gemstone ring on the index finger of her left wrist exudes a strange halo from time to time, as if it is reminding her of something. Who are you anyway? You have Luo Fengtian's authority. This is part of that old woman's. Why is it in your hands? You pretended to be the fourth child just to gain Luo Fengtian's authority in my hands. The old king spoke sadly. There was confusion in the first half of the sentence. In the second half, it was an extremely determined attitude. It seems that in his eyes, his son is not qualified to have Luo Fengtian's authority. This doesn't feel like conceited arrogance, but like some established fact. The words fell. The eldest prince, second prince, and third princess on the field were all stunned. He looked at Shen Jian with a stiff expression. Isn't this person their fourth brother? At the beginning, they did suspect that the fourth prince was someone else in disguise. Otherwise, how could he suddenly transform from a playboy and incompetent waste to the strongest prince in the four realms? The transformation is astonishing. I believe that any nobleman who has seen the ugly behavior of the fourth prince will subconsciously begin to doubt. Only, as the speculation that the fourth prince had been hiding in disguise for the past dozen years spread throughout the kingdom, they began to feel that the fourth prince might really be pretending. But now, the king of the Eli Empire, their father, was convinced that the fourth prince in front of him was fake. How could this not frighten them? The other side. Shen Jian was also slightly stunned. He did not refute, but said with great interest, "This is a disguise for a thriller game. How did you see through it? Your next royal heir here cannot have Luo Fengtian's authority." He admitted it in a very special way. The three royal heirs were shocked again. Although Shen Jian didn't say it clearly, his meaning was already obvious. He is indeed not the fourth prince. And they've also heard of horror games. The only people who can be selected for the horror game are humans. Is he human? Compared to Shen Jian being the fourth prince's answer, the human identity was even more shocking to them. What kind of garbage are humans? They are just ants that can be easily crushed to death. In the past 2 years of the king's trial, they have seen humans sent in by horror games in their respective territories. Most of the horror levels are at the red level, and the rare few are at the Ghost King level, which is already at the top of the human world. Combat strength. Such a weak world can be flattened by casually dispatching an army of about 1,000 fierce ghosts. A top Ghost King can dominate the human world and destroy several countries just like playing. It can be said. After learning the overall background of the human world, they basically gave up their desire to attack. But now they are told that Shen Jian is human? It's noisy. How can this be? Think of this. The three royal heirs all showed expressions that were uglier than crying. Instead of losing to humans, they would rather lose to their brothers and sisters. This time I was even more heartbroken. He was defeated by the ants in their eyes and hung up. It is simply a disgrace to them. When I'm feeling overwhelmed. They heard their father laugh ferociously. Luo Fengtian's authority is here, so it doesn't matter if I tell you. Back then, after half of the authority of the Taisha Liangshi sect's heavenly palace was taken away by the glorious ghosts and gods, I couldn't do anything for the rest of my life. I was promoted to the world-destroying level ghost and god, but I didn't want to give up the opportunity to control Luo Fengtian's authority, so I planted a supernatural curse on my son and daughter. This curse has no ill effects, but it cannot touch anyone with Luo Fengtian. Something that is authorized by God. So, you, who carries some of the authority of the divine power, can never be the fourth child. The old king's expression was terrifyingly cold. What he said also revealed complete ruthlessness. Just for his slim hope, he carved a supernatural curse on his descendants that would never be able to touch Luo Fengtian's authority, just to bring this authority underground. Tiger poison doesn't even eat seeds. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. You are really an excellent old man. No wonder you can raise sons and daughters who kill each other. If your third daughter hadn't designed to kill the fourth prince, I wouldn't have been able to obtain the status of a prince so easily. Hear this. Everyone's eyes turned to the third princess. His eyes seemed to say, "Damn it, it turned out that you, the old man, brought him here." Third princess. She twitched her lips. Want to cry but no tears. This time, the mystery of why the fourth prince was okay in the first place was finally explained, but what was going on with this even more heartbreaking feeling? Haha, he is just a fourth child. He will die when he dies. He has already made the greatest contribution by sending you here before he dies. When I integrate the complete authority of Luo Fengtian, I can find a way to advance to the world-destroying level of ghosts and gods. I will kill that old woman Guanghui. As for you, a human being, you can capture my ghost-level daughter. It seems that your status in the human world is not low, but it is not enough. The old king spoke confidently. Shen Jian raised the corner of his mouth, glanced at the three princesses behind him, and said with a strange look, "He doesn't know what I have done in the outside world? Is his intelligence capability so lagging behind?" Third princess. Father, She considered the meaning and used an appropriate word, "It is relatively stable. Even in the castle where he lives, the father lives alone. To use his meaning, he is worried about coming. Often, there are followers of the glorious ghost and god among the people who stab him in the back. Because of this, the affairs of the kingdom are basically decided by the four holy families. Even if there are matters that require the king's order, they are piled up in a side hall, and my father will only deal with them once a month. Unless it is a major supernatural event that affects the royal city, it is possible for it to reach the ears of the father at the first time." Shen Jian understood. "After being beaten by a monkey, I had a psychological shadow. I became afraid of death, and then evolved into a mental illness, right?" "Your damn summary is so accurate," the three heirs complained at the same time. "What? Didn't that old woman Guanghui come just now?" Hearing the conversation, the old king became suspicious. Looking around with some vigilance, the eldest prince explained, "It was the third sister who made the noise just now. She summoned a real-world destroying ghost and god, and wanted to overturn the table and reshuffle the cards, but unfortunately the trump card was not strong enough and did not cause a stir." Old king. He was slightly startled. Summon a real-world destroying ghost and god. Emma. Neither he nor I have such ability. So, what does this have to do with him? The old king pointed at Shen Jian. The eldest prince looked at the bonehead hanging on Shen Jian's waist from the corner of his eye, and looked at his father with some pity. That world-destroying ghost and god was transformed by him, and now it hangs on his waist. As soon as these words came out, the old king's pupils were shaking. His eyes subconsciously looked at the human head skeleton around Shen Jian's waist. He thought it was a decoration. Is this horse riding a world-destroying ghost and god? How can it be? He uses the heads of world-destroying ghosts and gods as collectibles? Is it so luxurious? Wrong. The old king shook his head. The biggest question comes to mind. Being able to transform a world-destroying ghost and god and use its head as a collection shows that Shen Jian's level of terror is at least at the world-destroying level, and not even the ordinary kind. Otherwise, how can we save the other party? Think of this. The old king's face suddenly stiffened. The old face stiffened for a moment. Was he threatening a real world-destroying ghost and god just now? For a while. He turned pale. "See this?" Shen Jian said with great interest, "I thought you were quite brave, is this all?" Old king. He wanted to retaliate and say that I was very brave, but after thinking about it, it was better to do less than to do more. Then. He sneered, "Fourth, I was too excited just now. After thinking about it, there is no conflict between us. If you want to complete the task, you can complete the task. I won't stop you. My job is to sit on the throne." Shen Jian, the old Shinto. The words fell. The old king stood up from the throne as if his butt was on fire, showing a forced smile. Please sit down, I can abdicate now if necessary. Father, what about your face as the king of a country? At least resist a few times to show your strength as a great country. It would be such a shame to abdicate right now. Shen Jian raised his eyebrows. The throne has been retired, so why are you still wearing the ring? Hear this. The old ghost king's smile froze again. Subconsciously, he covered his right index finger. Moment. It was then that he said in a low voice, "Fourth, I have already given in. You are a human being and you are already a world-destroying ghost and god. This Luo Fengtian authority is of no use to you at all. If you need a ring that symbolizes royal power, you can now have someone create a colorful one, which will definitely show off your identity better than this one. What if I insist?" Shen Jian grinned. This time, the old king remained silent for even longer. When he raised his head again, his grimace was already ferocious. "You forced me to do this. Do you know why I appeared in this palace hall after learning that there were supernatural fluctuations of world-destroying ghosts and gods outside? That's because, there is a tradition in the Eli Empire. In order not to interfere with the rule of the new king, the abdicated king will choose to be buried in the grave and take the initiative to sleep. The purpose is to give the royal family more heritage. Waiting it's the right time to advance to the level of world-destroying ghosts and gods. And this heritage is underground." The words fell. The old king tore off his left arm and allowed the ghost blood to seep into the ground of the hall. "Father, grandpa, great-grandfather, ancestors, please give me a helping hand." The roar echoed throughout the hall. However, 1 second, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, 30 seconds passed, and the ground was quiet, with no movement at all. 3 heirs? Old king? Where is my grandfather, great-grandfather, great-grandfather, great-grandfather? Give me some reaction. I'm embarrassed when you do this. The old king was shocked. Don't understand why there is no response. This is a secret that only the king can know. He clearly remembers what his father told him when he first succeeded to the throne. With the blood of the royal family, kings of all ages can be awakened to help. But now, it's useless. Gan. You can't lie to me. Don't do it, otherwise I will really become a clown. The old king gritted his teeth. He tore off his left leg again, and more ghost blood flowed down again. This time, finally there was movement. The ghost blood seemed to be attracted by some strange supernatural force as it flowed, constantly surging underground. Then, several lines of words were formed. "I don't have a son like you, so don't come here to have a relationship. Go away, I don't have any grandchildren, don't touch me. Great-grandson, are you short-sighted? Idiot, do you want us to die with you? You are an unworthy descendant, bah. My dear, do the descendants of the royal family now dare to confront even world-destroying ghosts and gods? It's scary." Bloody characters appeared. Apparently, the ancestors of the Eli Empire have long since woken up. But who can ride a horse without any real sense of recovery? You want to die, ancestors, we don't want to. You'd better kneel down and die on your own, so as not to implicate us and destroy the wealth that my Eli Empire has worked hard to save for hundreds of years. Old king? He was confused. He stood there stunned. The whole person was in a trance. Shaky. The 3 eldest princes could not help but feel pity. This is true, Daddy doesn't care, Grandpa doesn't love. It's too awful. It was so miserable that we all felt relieved. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Buletin Chigua. Chapter 891. The scarlet words are gathering and changing. They all drew clear lines from the old king. In fact, they were just sleeping, not really dead. When Shen Jian broke into this place, they had already vaguely reacted, but they just didn't wake up. They naturally heard everything the eldest prince said. Be good. How come the descendants of these descendants are so brave after they forcefully defeat world-class ghosts and gods? He also looked like he was in a desperate situation. They thought that after so many years of development, the old king had a way to compete and kill world-destroying ghosts and gods, and that was why he was so tough. Unexpectedly, this foreign aid turned out to be them. Joke. This stupid thing must have gone crazy when it comes to riding a horse. That is an existence that can save world-destroying ghosts and gods. What is this concept? Killing world-destroying ghosts and gods is the easiest. Imprisonment is even more difficult. And degree transformation means that while imprisoning the target, it is necessary to modify and distort a person's consciousness with supernatural abilities that far exceed the normal level. This is countless times more difficult than simply killing world-destroying ghosts and gods. In their opinion, Shen Jian's level of terror was at least on the same level as the glorious ghosts and gods. It is an inhuman species that is infinitely close to the level of annihilation. In this situation, even if all the previous kings were revived together, they would not necessarily pose a threat. You are so tough, don't get involved with us. We really don't know each other well, so don't make random connections. The other side. The old king was confused. He never expected that his father, grandfather, great-grandfather, and ancestors would stab him in the back. A posture of "he is shit, stay away." This allowed him to break through the defense directly. Father, grandpa, and ancestors, please see clearly that he is an outsider, a human being who comes to seize our inheritance. He not only wants to take away my country, but also wants to take away Luo Fengtian's authority. The old king yelled with a distorted face. Shut up, I should have thrown you against the wall in the first place. He is of royal blood, and he is now the fourth prince. Just go and cure your blindness. Don't bother us. Ghost blood flowed, intertwined with a line of words. This is the old king's father, the previous king of the Eli Empire. Guy son, you are old and blinder than us. Yes, my great-grandson, he is clearly the fourth prince of the empire. How can you deny this on your own? The fourth prince has been widely expected to inherit the throne. It is just and right. You are an unworthy descendant, why don't you abdicate the throne obediently? Hey, stop being a tiger. We all admit it. It's useless for you to object. Line after line of bloody words made the old king's eyes split open and he almost vomited 3 liters of blood. His pupils widened. I couldn't understand why my father and grandfather wanted to help a human being who had nothing to do with them and believed that the other person was the fourth child. What the hell, my own son, how can I admit my mistake? For a while, he was confused, shocked and angry. But she still protected the multicolored gemstone ring on the index finger of her right wrist, unwilling to let go. See this. The kings of past dynasties who were trembling underground almost couldn't help but come back to life and cursed loudly. The old king was in the middle of the game, and his desire to advance to the world-destroying level of ghosts and gods surpassed all else. He couldn't see the situation clearly, and was naturally unwilling to let go, but they saw it very clearly. They had no chance in front of a being on the same level as the glorious ghosts and gods. After learning that Shen Jian carried half of the authority of Taisha Liangxi's Zhongtian Palace, outsiders like them immediately thought that Shen Jian had obtained it from the glorious ghosts and gods. Put yourself in their shoes. If they were glorious ghosts and gods, under what circumstances would they willingly hand over the extremely precious Luo Fengtian authority? The answer is crash. Only under the threat of death can they be made to make such concessions. Looking at it this way, the situation is very clear. How can they fight against Shenjian when they can't even deal with the glorious ghosts and gods? And Shenjian is a human being. This is not a bad thing, but a good thing. Because this means that the other party will not stay in the Eli Empire for a long time. Once he leaves, a candidate who can take his place must be selected. Naturally, this candidate can only be other members of the royal family. Look at it this way. Although the Eli Empire changed hands on the surface, it actually had no adverse effects at all. On the contrary, the benefits are huge. Not to mention anything else, once Shenjian becomes king, the Eli Empire will be a supernatural kingdom with world-destroying ghosts and gods, and it will be stronger than the Elim Temple. The unification of royal power that they have not accomplished may be achieved in Shenjian's generation. Therefore, only then will they collectively support Shenjian to become the new king. As for the old king, a fool who couldn't understand what he was doing was dead. Everyone is the winner from the trial of fighting for the king. Apart from anything else, they are all the best in terms of being ruthless, and inhumane. It's just a blood descendant who died, it doesn't matter. Then they all looked at each other. The next second, a supernatural threat mixed with multiple yin-chi fluctuations suddenly descended and fell on the old king. In an instant, the old king's right arm carrying the colorful gemstone ring was dismembered and floated in front of Shenjian. A line of blood words surged. According to the orders of previous kings, the old king was abolished and His Royal Highness the Fourth Prince was appointed as the new king of the current Eli Empire. This order swept the entire royal city at the same time. Everyone in the royal city knew this news immediately. It caused an uproar. Digging. We haven't slept yet, why did this happen? Will the fourth prince become the new king now? What happened in the palace? See this scene. The old king completely lost his last hope. He collapsed weakly to the ground. 3 of his limbs have been dismembered, and ghost blood is constantly flowing. Although he seems to be fine thanks to the strong yin energy that is infinitely close to the world-destroying ghost and god, he is already desperate inside. Powerless. Unwilling to do so. Angry. A lot of emotions are mixed together, and my heart feels like death. Unlike the despair of the old king, at this moment, a strong smile appeared on Shenjian's face. Emotions couldn't help but stir up. He held out his hand. He broke off the index finger on his arm and took off the colorful gemstone ring that symbolized the throne of the Eli Empire. Point your finger. The colorful gemstone ring suddenly dimmed and lost its color. Then, shattered and disintegrated. The excitement flashed in Shenjian's eyes. Finally, the other half of Luo Fengtian's second authority was recovered. At the moment, he has completely recovered 3 Luo Fengtian in his hand. The conditions for unlocking the Azura path have been met. As long as he returns to the underworld, he can officially unlock the path of Azura. There is only one God's way left. Think of this. Shenjian's eyes shone with light. He is getting closer and closer to the true and complete underworld. Sanzhenchi, Menpo Soup, and one of the 6 paths of reincarnation, the way of God. As long as these 3 things are unlocked, the underworld of the mythical period, the restricted area for the living, the place of reincarnation of dead souls, and one of the 3 realms of heaven, earth, and man, will truly reappear in the human world. Thinking. Shenjian suppressed the excitement in his heart. Raise your hand slightly. The blood-stained hemp rope on his wrist immediately made sense. A hanging rope was tied from the sky and the old king was hung up. Moved next to the trio. Dad, you're here. The trio looked at each other, rolling their eyes, but still managed to say hello. It's just that scene, no matter how you look at it, it's so tragic. Old king. He was so angry that he was speechless. I wanted to be alone for a while. Give him the strength that the old king deserves. instead of being treated the same as these 3 sons and daughters who can make people angry to death. But it's a pity. Not allowed. At the same time, Shen Jian cast his gaze underground. His eyes narrowed. He seems to be thinking about something. Before doing this, he would definitely not let go of this place where at least 6 or 7 ghosts and gods rested. Even if he had to dig a grave 3 feet away, he would still have to put all these kings in a sack. But now, he is no longer the carefree young man he once was. We have passed the age where performance is required. Think about it. Shen Jian gave up the idea of digging the grave. He withdrew the arc of electricity that faintly burst out between his fingers, turned around and left. Mad. It seemed like I was wandering on the edge of life and death for a while. I don't know if the king of hell saw their names flashing in the book of life and death. The kings of all dynasties had cold sweats on their faces. It wasn't until he watched Shen Jian leave that he dared to lie back down. I am so surprised. Empire. This night. It's destined to be a sleepless night. Everyone knows that the Eli Empire has changed hands. The old king abdicated, and the 4th prince became the new king, controlling the huge empire. And it is the largest country in the history of kings. The 4 realms, the high seas, the royal city, and even the holy city are all under the jurisdiction of this 4th prince, who is known as the strongest prince in history. His achievements are enough to be recorded in ancient books. Unprecedented. After all, the kings of future generations have no more work to do. Certainly. In this discussion, many nobles began to talk about how the 4th prince, who had become the new king, would deal with the eldest prince and his entourage. Especially the members of the aristocracy who had personally witnessed the 3rd princess summoning world-destroying ghosts and gods. They knew that the threat from the 3rd princess and other royal heirs was too great. If the situation is not fully protected, the previous turmoil will be repeated again. Killing is the best option. The winners of the king fighting trials throughout the ages have adopted a similar approach. In such discussions, the castle where the eldest prince resides. The eldest princess Aini Ya stood on the balcony on the 2nd floor, waiting for news about Shen Jian with complicated emotions. Naturally, she also received the supernatural message about the old king abdicating the throne and the 4th prince becoming the new king. Her thoughts are no different from those of outside nobles. I also feel that killing the eldest prince, 2nd prince, and 3rd princess is the only way to prevent the turmoil from happening again tonight. Only. The eldest prince is her husband after all. How could she just watch the other person die? She also understood that what she did was unfair to the 4th prince. The other party had already spared the eldest prince once because of her, which caused the turmoil tonight. If she wanted to plead for mercy again, not only would the 4th prince be unwilling, but she herself could not get over it. That pass. Because of this, she was so distraught. Sister-in-law, are you waiting for me this late at night? Just thinking about it? A gentle voice sounded in front of her. The eldest princess Ainaya took a closer look. I saw Shenji Unzheng staring at her with twinkling eyes, which seemed to contain all kinds of fascination, but he had to restrain his thoughts for fear of hurting her. His sad and affectionate expression of being unable to love made her even more upset. I always felt that I was sorry for Shen Jian's affectionate devotion. Congratulations, Your Majesty. The eldest princess held up the hem of her skirt, bent her knees and performed a standard aristocratic salute. From Shen Jian's perspective, we can clearly see that when she knelt down, this good sister-in-law revealed her proud career line. Shen Jian. His eyes were strange. Somewhat inexplicably, she said, Sister-in-law, I have something to say about Brother Wang. I don't know whether I should say it or not. I'm afraid that because of my reasons, there will be a gap in your relationship, but I don't want you to be hurt. When Shen Jian opened his mouth, he used the standard green Tihor words. Now. Everything for Luo Fengtian in the second place is coming to an end. He can officially clear the dungeon here only after he succeeds to the throne. The last value of the eldest prince and others has been squeezed out. It was time to create a barrier between the couple so that he could insert himself into it. End of chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 892. About, my husband. The eldest princess Aina looked suspicious and looked at Shen Jian with some confusion. She guessed that what happened when the fourth prince took away his husband and the second prince, and when the third prince and daughter went to the palace, but, what does this kind of royal secret have to do with her? Sister-in-law, do you think brother Wang has trusted you? Shen Jian's words immediately made her frown. If it were anyone else, she would have been displeased by this time and would have driven him away. After all, in her opinion, this was a clear attempt to drive a wedge between the couple, to criticize her, to arouse her emotions and make trouble for the eldest prince, making him tired of troubles. But the person who said this was Shen Jian, the fourth prince who was willing to protect her silently, even if she got married, and had no regrets. He just wanted her to be happy. His words made the princess instantly recall all the past in her mind. Subsequently, she pursed her lips and nodded, of course he trusts me. I am taking care of the castle where I live now and most of the properties in his territory. Isn't this trust? Shen Jian was non-committal. He smiled mysteriously. He opened his mouth and said, "You are outside, come in." The eldest princess was stunned. The female knight had already walked in with an embarrassed look on her face. She lived in the side hall, and she had actually noticed it when the two of them were talking, but she didn't expect that the doggy man actually pushed her out. Although she had been mentally prepared, at this moment, she could not help but dodge, scratching her head from time to time with a sneer on her face. "You come and tell my sister-in-law what your mission is." Shen Jian shrugged. "Well, actually, I think that..." The female knight gave Shen Jian a hard look, her look clearly showing anger. "Don't talk nonsense, otherwise you will suffer a lot." Shen Jian had something to say. The female knight wanted to cry but had no tears left. She now feels that there is nothing wrong with suffering a little. "After eating too much, I don't seem to feel the bitterness anymore, and I can drink the bitter water. Well, the eldest prince sent me to you so that I can monitor you and record whether you have used your selfish motives and used his power to benefit the Belkia family for personal gain. If necessary, I need to collect evidence. When you went to the south, the eldest prince also ordered me to monitor your every move, and told me not to let the fourth prince get close to you. The same goes if other men get close." The female knight finished speaking in one breath. He lowered his head in shame. To be honest, the eldest princess has always been very good to her. Although she always felt that Aina had robbed her of the princess position and had a very cold attitude towards the princess, she had always treated her with courtesy and never felt indebted. On the contrary, she didn't like him at all times. After listening, the eldest princess Aina was struck by lightning. Pupils contract violently. She took a step forward and stopped, her emerald-like emerald eyes bloomed with a dazzling halo at this moment, and then her face turned pale. The truth. There are no more sincere words than those under her supernatural control. What the female knight said is all true. This made it impossible for her to deceive herself even if she wanted to. But why? Aren't they a couple? Aren't they married to his matchmaker, and they were married under the witness and blessing of the entire royal city? If she doesn't even have this bit of trust, and needs to have an undercover agent by her side at all times to feel at ease, then why did she make the oath of eternal love in the first place? Why are you chasing her? Isn't it good to tell her directly that it is a family marriage and there is no emotion between the two? Sister-in-law, I'm sorry. I really didn't expect that Brother Wang would be such a person. This is all my fault. I shouldn't have done this. I will pull her away now. At this time, Shen Jian seemed to be an afterthought. His face was full of guilt. He immediately pulled the female knight out of the room. Female knight. You are a bitch, but you are willing to go to great lengths to covet your sister-in-law. After hearing this green tea speech, I had to give a thumbs up and call you my good sister. What a bitch. You are now the new king of the Eli Empire, can you please be more restrained? She looked at Shen Jian angrily again. He lowered his voice and said, Dog, your majesty, you are too immoral. Shen Jian glanced at her, and where the princess couldn't see it, he hit the erect part with his big hand, and said in a seductive tone, Be cooperative, aren't you jealous of the princess? You don't want to ravage this princess's body in person one day. Press her down. Female knight? This sentence. It really confused her. It took a while to react. The ghost's eyes turned into vertical pupils in shock. He looked at the man in front of him with a stuttering expression. Does this newly appointed king of the Eli Empire, this bitch, want to play with the two of them? If this was the case, she could really ravage the princess and pin her down. But aren't you the one who will ultimately benefit from this? Your calculations are too loud. It made me think you were really good for me. Nonsense. After suffering, I still have to eat fresh mushroom soup. That's what I thought. Sudden. A shout sounded. Stop. The eldest princess seemed to have reacted and called out to the two people who had already opened the door. A pretty face was completely pale. If there is anything else, tell me everything. I want to know whether he treats me with true love or a pretense. This time, there was no need for Shen Jian to take the initiative to speak. The female knight has handed over the human skin paper. Then she retreated to a position an inch in front of Shen Xiang, and allowed this bitch man to put his hands behind her. She found that she quite enjoyed this taboo-like desire to be watched. The other side. The eldest princess took the human skin paper, a trace of disgust flashed in her eyes. But I was quickly attracted by the content above. Eldest prince, there is an emergency in the manufacturing of flintlock guns. I need you to do something now. Tell the princess to let her seduce my fourth brother. My fourth brother's nature is hard to change and he cannot resist when the time comes. Just ask the princess to suggest taking her to the core place where flintlocks are made and find out the key. Female knight, your highness, this is not good, she is the princess after all. Eldest prince, it's okay, just go ahead and say it whether it's for me or her family, she will be willing to explain it to you if you can just say that I won't dislike her. Shen Jian looked at it. His eyes flashed slightly. He did not modify any of these contents. All are the most authentic communication records. Certainly. He deleted some of the previous flirtatious remarks. In this way, the female knight is just an undercover spy on the princess, not her former love rival. This way, the acceptance will be higher in the future. He believes it. The eldest prince probably never thought that the content of this chat would be seen by the person involved. It is precisely because of this that after reading it, the color on the princess's face was gone. She had a cold face. Resentment kept coming out. Let her seduce other men and say you won't dislike her? What right does he have to despise himself? How can there be any reason in this world for a husband to let his wife seduce other men? Original. She felt guilty towards her husband. After all, she was not firm in her position. Although she was already a married woman, she still developed a crush on the fourth prince and even developed a lip-to-mouth friendship. But now, the shame is gone. What replaced it was deep hatred. How could a man make her feel so disgusting? He is simply unworthy of being a husband. It's not worth it to help people like this. This moment, she felt a deep sense of powerlessness and confusion. My legs and feet went weak. He just fell to the ground. Careful. At this time, Shen Jian moved his steps. Crossing 100 meters in one step, he directly supported this good sister-in-law and leaned into his arms. Moment. When Yu is in her arms. The proud capital was pressed against his chest, and his plump and passionate body was hugged directly by him. The breath is filled with a unique fragrance. Sister-in-law, I'm sorry, it's my fault. I don't want to ruin your relationship with Brother Wang, but, he went too far. I think you should have the right to know about this matter. Shen Jian continues to export green tea culture. Be soothed. At this time, being hugged by this broad chest, the eldest Princess Aina Ya's delicate body also stiffened slightly. But she only struggled symbolically, not violently. On the contrary, this alluring body struggled and rubbed in Shen Jian's arms, making him boil on fire. At once, the eldest princess noticed it. Finally he hurriedly planned to get up. But this time, she didn't succeed. Because just when she was about to leave, Shen Jian pulled her back again. This made the eldest princess blush even more nervous. It made her body feel angry. I just feel regretful. She regretted that she had chosen the wrong lover and that she had not met Shen Jian earlier. Otherwise, she would definitely not be like this now. What are you doing? The princess was breathing rapidly. Sister-in-law, I have said before that if Brother Wang does anything to make you unhappy or makes you sad, then I will do whatever it takes to get you back from him. He doesn't know how to cherish you, sister-in-law, but there are people who do. Shen Jian's eyes are deep and his whole person is affectionate. Eyes facing each other. The eldest princess could clearly see that the eyes of the brother-in-law in front of her, who had an abnormal reaction because of her, were full of fire. The heat seemed to melt her. Ever since, her eyelashes trembled slightly and she slowly closed her eyes. The female knight saw this. His eyes were brightened by more than 1 degree. He hurriedly encouraged Shen Jian, Your Majesty, what are you waiting for? Come on quickly. Shen Jian. He looked at the female knight with an incomprehensible expression. The look in his eyes seemed to say, if we don't go out, we'll just have a threesome. However, the female knight ignored his gesture. She was also prepared to see the princess's precious moments with her own eyes. How could he be willing to go out? Shen Jian glanced at her again. Behind him, shadows swam. Swallow the other person. At the same time, the eldest princess was also shocked. He opened his eyes suddenly. There was a blush and shame on her face that couldn't be overcome. She almost forgot that there was a third person in the room. If this really happened, she would be embarrassed to see anyone. Your Majesty, But the words have not yet finished. The lips are blocked. Don't worry, it's just the two of us here now. Shen Jian kissed him. Regardless of the struggles of this good sister-in-law. The other side. The female knight who was swallowed into the shadow was furious. Dog man. When she is needed, she cooperates in every way, but when she is not needed, she is not even shown the drama. Just thinking about it, she realized she had landed. Entering a caged place full of shadows. It's here. She saw the eldest prince, the second prince, the third princess, and the old king. 4 people were imprisoned here. When the eldest prince saw the person coming, his expression immediately changed. Aren't you following the princess closely? Why were you swallowed in? Where is the princess? The female knight pouted. Probably, I'm studying my specialties with His Majesty. End of chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 893. This night. Many people are destined to suffer from insomnia. This was the case for the eldest prince and his party, who were swallowed into the unknown shadow land. This is what happened to all the nobles in the royal city. The same is true for the four holy families. After learning that the fourth prince had successfully ascended to the throne and became the new king of the Eli Empire, the whole city was in an uproar and spontaneously gathered at the palace. Everyone wanted to see this legendary king as soon as possible. However, waited for a long time. There was no movement from the direction of the palace. Ghost Duke Ceres asked doubtfully, "Tyr, do you know where he went?" Kali-Til was equally confused. They were the first group to gather at the entrance of the palace. If the situation had not permitted them, they would have followed. But now, although he had received the supernatural message that the fourth prince had become the new king, he never saw the new king appear, as if nothing had happened. The six princesses also stood in the crowd. Under the dark night, her golden eyes were shining brightly, and her little face was full of calm. But if you look carefully, you can still find some emotion hidden in this calmness. Who would have thought that in the end, the person who would eventually become the new king of the empire would be the fourth brother who was known as the Prince of Waste in the past? Such a dramatic result made her feel a little bit different. But the fourth brother succeeded in taking the position and deserved it. Especially those who have experienced the arrival of the Bone Bodhisattva, they feel that if the four princes cannot sit on this throne, it is even less possible for the other princes and daughters to sit on it. Nothing else. The advantages are too great and too obvious. A crushing ending has been formed. If he does not become king, then the Eli Empire will have no king. At this time, Kali-Tir muttered, "Not only is His Highness not here, but the woman doesn't seem to be here either." The sixth princess was stunned for a moment, then reacted. This should refer to her sister-in-law Inaya. She really didn't know much about the relationship between her fourth brother and her sister-in-law, but she was good at observing, especially micro-expressions. In her opinion, the relationship between the fourth brother and the sister-in-law is not simple. Although it seems that there is no real progress, she can clearly see a certain degree of entanglement, conflict, and fear in the eyes of the sister-in-law. The other party looks at the fourth brother. His eyes were also full of complexity. If there was no ambiguity in this, she wouldn't believe it even to death. And now, the fourth brother is not here, and neither is the sister-in-law. She thought of something. His face stiffened slightly, and his expressionless face became as stiff as a corpse at this moment. No way. This is impossible. No matter how ridiculous the fourth brother is, the sister-in-law does not dare to risk the disapproval of the world. She must be overthinking. Think about it. She backed out carefully. That's enough, Your Majesty, we can't make the same mistake again and again. The eldest princess turned her head away. His face was crimson and his breathing was unstoppable. I just felt a fire burning in my chest. But she still maintained her dignity as the eldest princess and the fourth prince's sister-in-law. Your Majesty, it is really wrong for us to do this. You are now the new king of the empire, and I am your sister-in-law and the wife of your elder brother. Even if he is unkind and unjust, it is not the reason for us to do this. She tilted her head, not daring to look into Shenjian's eyes, and put her delicate hand on Shenjian's chest to prevent the two from getting too close. Little did I know. Her words and contradictions were the important factors that contributed to Shenjian's desire to conquer. Sister-in-law, if a man like this is not green now, when will he be better? He can send you out and let other men take advantage of you. Today it is me, maybe tomorrow it will be someone else. You have lived according to the rules for so long, is it possible? Have you never wanted to break through this restraint? Shenjian opened his mouth. The eyes are sincere and affectionate. In general. He doesn't overdo it, but knows when to stop. But things are different today. If I don't get into the heart of this good sister-in-law now, I will have no chance in the future. To know. Once people are given time to weigh the pros and cons, the level of confusion will only skyrocket. Certainly. What prompted Shen Jian's action was his already extremely high favorability. Princess Aina Ya. Current status: shy, panic, conflict, lust. Favorability: 84, intimate. 84 points of favorability. This is the limit of favorability he finally reached after a chat over tea. In the intimacy stage, we have entered the passionate love stage of a normal couple. If you want to improve after that, it will take time. At this stage, there is a trick, which is intimacy, which requires physical contact and couple affairs. Hear this. The princess's eyes flashed. In his emerald-like emerald eyes, there was deep hatred and disgust, as well as the urge to take revenge. Shen Jian seized the opportunity. Forcibly turning the head of this good sister-in-law, Shen Jian faced each other and said word by word, "Sister-in-law, I want to take care of you. This may be my only chance. I don't want to give up." To tell the truth, the princess' eyes dodge. You are the new king of the current empire, and I am the recognized princess. There will be no results between us. Once it is exposed, your reputation will be bad, unless you want to I became shady. Then I will give up this position. Shen Jian did not hesitate. For me, this position is not as important as yours. This is the truth. Shen Jian did not use ghosts and gods to cover up. To him, whether it is the throne of the Qing kingdom or the throne of the Yilai empire, their importance is not high. It's something that can be thrown away at any time. After all, he is already the master of Luo Fengtian. No matter how great the emperor is, he still ranks under the way of heaven. But the princess didn't know this. All she knew was that the man in front of her regarded her as a treasure and wanted to be with her even if he abandoned the throne. In comparison, her husband is a complete beast. Maybe, I should seize the happiness in front of me. As soon as this idea came up, the eldest princess struggled less. There was some complexity in his eyes. If you betray me, I will commit suicide. She lightly bit Shen Jian's neck. A faint bite mark was left on the neck. It turned into a supernatural mark. This is a curse. Once Shen Jian changes her mind, the supernatural power will make her freeze on the spot. No one can be saved. She had never used this curse on anyone, which did more harm than good. But when it comes to Shen Jian, she is willing to take a gamble. The next second, before she could react, Shen Jian had already hugged her. He placed it on the bed next door like a treasure. Her hair was spread out, falling on the soft sheets. In front of him was Shen Jian, who was looking down at him with fiery eyes like a hungry wolf. "Sister-in-law, you are so beautiful." Shen Jian approached step by step. The eldest princess couldn't help but curl up her toes. Their legs were intertwined and their necks were intertwined. The lips were also intertwined not to be outdone. The originally neat quilt was rolled up into chaos. The other side. The 6 princesses quietly came to the castle where the eldest prince was. At that time, the news that the 4th prince became the new king has already spread. The news of the eldest prince's defeat also spread throughout the royal city early in the morning. There is no one left here except some maids and attendants who don't want to do it. Naturally, the whereabouts of the 6 princesses could not be found. Just when she was using her psychic powers to sense the situation in the castle, a cry mixed with a bit of pain came to her ears. This stopped her immediately. There was a bit of disbelief in the originally calm heart. He also made an indecent act of swallowing saliva. This voice is undoubtedly the sister-in-law. Not long ago, the eldest brother failed in the fight, and the second brother and the third prince's sister were taken over by the 4th brother, making it impossible for them to return to their castle. What's more, at this time, she didn't believe that Brother Wang still had such thoughts. That is to say, there is someone else here who is just trying to get along with my sister-in-law. At once, a figure appeared in her mind. Brother Sewang. This time, she was really shocked. He wanted to speak, but when the words reached his lips, he took them back. Next moment, she sighed. He regained his previous calmness, rolled his dead fish eyes, and laid a layer of ghost land over this place. Brother, you are indeed a pervert. Finished. She turned and left. The next day. The sun is just right. Shen Jian opened his eyes. What he saw was the princess who pulled out a piece of his hair and tickled his face. The head was still resting on his arm. Sister-in-law, provoking a man like this is not a wise choice. Shen Jian turned over. Suppress this good sister-in-law. His eyes wandered around. It's as if you are admiring some beautiful scenery that has been passed down from generation to generation. Your Majesty, don't forget, you have more important things to do today. The eldest princess blushed and pushed Shen Jian away. Stroking Shen Jian's rolling Adam's apple, she left her own supernatural curse on it. Put your life entirely on the other person not to change their mind. This is a stupid thing to do. But she just wanted to give it a try. Shen Jian's eyes were strange. I wish I could push this beautiful sister-in-law down again and ask her to beg for mercy. But he does have something else going on. Shen Jian turned his eyes. The chat interface appears. Jana, Your Highness, no, congratulations, Your Majesty, I have something to report to you. Jana, a group of players led by Adolf have arrived in the royal city, and they seem to be preparing to find an opportunity to approach you. They want to take advantage of the deadline for the settlement of the instance to join your lineup and complete the mission. Jana, I think you don't want these people alive. Saw these messages. Shen Jian's eyes were strange. Joining his squad was something he really wasn't expecting. It was clear that the enemy these Western Ghost Masters were looking for was him, but they still wanted to join his lineup without knowing it. There is a sense of absurd art. He wanted to know what the expressions of this group of people would look like after learning the truth. It should be pretty good. King Yama, what, you seem to have a Western lineup too, so you can't wait to let them die. Jana, yes, once they die and I become a 5-star player through this mission, my status in the Holy See can be improved by more than one level. I can also get more specific information about the plans of the 12 main gods of the West. Jana, Your Majesty, I hope you will give me a chance. I want to serve you. Jana, you are the hope of mankind. End of this chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigua. Chapter 894. 3 days later. This day. The atmosphere in the royal city was very lively, and long red and gold flags were hung on the streets and alleys, extending from the city gate to the palace. Such brilliant colors are undoubtedly a different scenery in the deep ghost realm that is slightly lifeless and twilight, adding a sense of celebration. The streets are also decorated with lights. There was a great uproar. So lively. Ghosts big and small were cheering and celebrating. Because this day is the day when the 4th prince ascends the throne. Under normal circumstances, the ceremony of succeeding to the throne is complicated and cumbersome. It takes at least 3 months from the beginning of preparations to the official conclusion, but the new king of the empire is obviously a person who does not have much patience. The ceremony, which was originally scheduled to take 3 months to officially begin, took only 3 days to hold. Time is so rushed. For an ordinary new king, this would undoubtedly be against the rules and not allowed. After all, the ascension of a new king is not only a matter for the king alone, but also a moment for the Eli Empire to demonstrate its strength and national status. If it is started in a hurry, it will only make the people of the empire think that the royal family has weakened to this point. But the current new king, the former fourth prince, is an exception. He wanted to take over the throne in 3 days, and no one dared to object, and no one had any objections. Because the fourth prince not only conquered the 4 realms during the king trial, but also eliminated all the princes forcefully, and became the only winner in just 2 years. Known as the strongest prince in history. It is said that His Royal Highness the fourth prince is a legendary world-destroying ghost and god. Beings of the same level as the glorious ghosts and gods of Elim Temple. His ascension to the throne indicates that the Eli Empire has a foundation that is not inferior to that of the Elim Temple, and finally does not have to be at a disadvantage in the confrontation with the divine authority. Therefore, not to mention that the fourth prince just wanted to shorten the time to succeed to the throne. Even if they tried to snatch the daughter of the people, they would just treat it as invisible, and even give up their own daughter to reach the sky in 1 step. In such a joyful atmosphere, a group of more than a dozen people were walking towards the palace. It is the Western Ghost Controller who entered the copy here. There are 16 people in the team. They come from the Western Territory, the Eastern Territory, and the High Seas. As for the players in the southern and northern borders, the former were all killed when the Duke of Elk sent troops to conquer the border town, while the latter only had 3 people left, Janna. The total number of people added up to 19. The 5-star dungeon is still a hell mode with a team of 50 people. There are still 20 people left alive. The survival rate is not generally high. Under normal circumstances, this is simply impossible to happen. The reason for this is simply that Adolf and his party have never walked in the dungeon. In the early days, he relied on Adolf to play the role of the son of the steward of the Viscount's palace, shrinking still. Later, he came into the sight of the eldest prince and was locked up in the underground of the Duke's palace in the west to make flintlock guns. There was no danger, so how could there be casualties? I should have chosen the fourth prince in the first place. The timing was just right. It didn't take much effort to join the border town. At this time, a white player was upset. He looked remorseful. The other players also showed similar expressions. Really? 5 days before the start of the dungeon, the fourth prince was still the infamous playboy, and the border town was not well known. At this time, it would be a very simple matter to join the border town and join the fourth prince's command. Unfortunately, such hindsight is useless. Even when the fourth prince occupied Eagle City and was about to become the lord of the Southern Territory, they still did not think that the long-dormant prince had any chance of winning. Even if it were to happen again, their choice would not be biased towards the fourth prince. Adolf, now that the fourth prince is about to take over, he has wiped out all the enemies and is invincible in the world. Do you think he will still pay attention to the advanced technology of the flintlock? We obviously don't have enough chips. One player asked. There was some concern in his tone. The reason why they were confident that they could join the fourth prince's lineup was naturally due to the advanced manufacturing technology of the flintlock gun. But at that time, they did not know that the fourth prince could successfully rise to power in just a few days and eradicate the enemy. All roadblocks. An empire without any rivals will have limited value no matter how much it values science and technology. This bargaining chip was obviously not enough for all of them to join the four princes lineup and successfully clear the dungeon. The fourth prince became the new king. This really caught me off guard, but, one chip is not enough, so add a second one. The white 5-star player with the ID Adolf flashed wisdom in his eyes. The second? Yes, the second one is King Yama. He is from the Dragon Kingdom, and he is the city lord of the 3 game areas in the southern region of the thriller game. If these 3 game areas were combined into one, how much do you think they would be worth? As soon as these words came out, all the players were shocked. None of them are fools. As soon as he heard it, he knew Adolf's plan. You want to sell the clues of King of Yama to the fourth prince? This is indeed feasible. That is a whole 3 game areas. Together they are not much smaller than the dungeon here. If occupied, the land area of the Eli Empire will be expanded by 1 times. If you can enter the world of horror through this, the benefits will be huge. All the players took a deep breath. This idea is really a little genius. What is the difference between this and presenting a world map to Qin Shi Huang, who unified the 6 countries? And it also comes with the latest technology. Guaranteed the Ile Empire's crushing position in the war. This Adolf must have a very good brain. No wonder others are 5-star players, but they are only 4-star players. This moment. The players are convinced. The other side. Royal Palace. All the nobles have already gathered. It is divided into 2 sides, standing in the palace hall dedicated to holding ceremonies. Welcome the arrival of the new king. Soon. Shen Jian stepped into the hall. He was wearing a king's robe. Under the robe, he was wearing a black uniform with gold. The cuffs and collar were embroidered with gold threads. His long golden hair hung down, forming an excellent foil. A crown symbolizing the king's power is worn on his head. The golden eyes are as deep as a prison, making people just take a look at them. I dare not look directly at his appearance and bow my head. The whole body exudes an indescribable aura. Long live my king! The first person to kneel down on one knee was the ghost scribe Kali Tir, who had been following the fourth prince. Her eyes were full of stars, and her watery blue eyes seemed to be smiling, as if to say, "Your Majesty is so handsome." Following closely behind was Ghost Duke Ceres. Long live your Majesty! She is the head of the Inoatan family, one of the 4 holy families, and one of the 4 holy dukes of the empire. With her status, she does not need to be the one to respond at all. But she still did it. Kneel down on one knee as well. The long, gradually changing fiery red hair bounced along with the length of her body, and the scent of red roses was intoxicating. She also looked at Shen Jian. His eyes were full of tenderness. It's all about Shen Jian. Next, there are the 6 princesses. She looked at Shen Jian, who was walking towards him with an indifferent expression, as if she were a pervert, but she still responded. Get down on one knee. Long live the king! In an instant. Everyone also knelt down on one knee. Long live the king! Long live the empire! Long live your Majesty! The sound of the oath was deafening, reaching into the sky. The crowd seemed to be exploding. The salute and the long bell rang at the same time. The moment they complimented each other, it meant that the new king of the Eli Empire had officially succeeded to the throne. A new king is born. The whole country celebrates. Everyone was immersed in the excitement. A vigorous wave was set off. Shen Jian sat on the throne. Smiled as well. Now, he can somewhat understand the feeling when Princess Midalin ascended the throne and proclaimed herself emperor, becoming the empress of the generation. Not bad indeed. No wonder the position of the 9th 5-year master can attract so many people to compete for it, and it can attract many heroes to compete for it. Occasionally, when a fatuous king appears, a minister presents his wife, which seems quite touching. Soon. Shen Jian noticed the expressions of the 6th princess. That look of unthinking contempt and a dead-eye look simply said he is a pervert nakedly written on his face. He chose to skip it. Because he did forget last time. I never expected that this short lowly 6th princess could guess that he was at the Grand Prince's castle, and sensed the movements of the castle very carefully, so that he was listened to. But it's not a big deal. After all, it will always come out. He didn't intend to hide it either. Today, I announce something. The king cannot have children, so the 6th princess will take over the position of the crown prince and exercise the power of supervising the country. Her orders are my orders. Kali Tyre will serve as the royal prime minister and assist the crown prince in managing the entire empire. The head of the Hillis family is the sword of the empire, wielding the power of life and death. Shen Jian opened his mouth. The voices of ghosts and gods resounded. Everyone present was shocked. Damn it! You are making such a fuss. On the first day after taking the throne, did you decentralize power? And if you don't have any heirs, just give birth to a child. We can open a harem for you right now. Why should the sixth princess become the crown prince? She is not your daughter. Wrong. The princess can't become the crown prince either. Although there were indeed stories of princes and daughters vying for the throne in the history of the empire, in fact, the Eli Empire has never had a queen, and naturally there will be no queen. This is the first example. The new king decided on the spot. This is ridiculous no matter how you look at it. So that everyone immediately suspected that Shen Jian was out of his mind and looked at Shen Jian with a dull look that said, "I'm stunned." To be disrespectful, they even seemed to want to open Shen Jian's head to see what was going on in his mind. Why could Wang Ling say such an outrageous thing? His Majesty. When a minister wanted to speak, Shen Jian glanced at him, and he was so frightened that he immediately retracted his head. This is not something that nobles like them can manipulate at will. The number of ghosts killed by the other party was the largest among princes and kings in the past. It would be an understatement to say that there were numerous corpses. If you contradict him, the consequences will be serious. I'm informing you, not negotiating. Shen Jian made a faint sound. Then he looked at the sixth princess, raised his brows, and raised his eyes, as if to say, remember what I said before, don't come out and call daddy yet. Sixth princess. This time. She really couldn't handle it anymore. The reason why you let me take over the position of crown prince is because you want to take advantage of me in terms of title? You are the king, and the crown prince is usually the heir of the king, so you are my father? For a while. She is messy. There should be a limit to your nonsense. And when did I say that I was willing to take over this position? This is compulsion. I'm not convinced. Never call me daddy. End of chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Buletin Chigua. Chapter 895. Inside the palace. The ministers were silent. It was obvious that everyone outside the palace was celebrating the birth of the new king and jumping for joy, but inside the palace that was separated by a wall, there was dead silence. Everyone is silent. Digesting the news. There are doubts, confusions, and inexplicables. No doubt. This is definitely the most ridiculous thing they have seen in their noble careers. On the first day after the new king ascended the throne, he completely delegated power. Damn it, the crown prince was chosen on the spot. The person he chose was not his direct bloodline, but his sister. It gives people the impression that they can't wait to hand over the throne. Think of this. Many nobles couldn't stand it any longer. Damn it! Is this throne a hot potato? Why do we feel that you are somewhat unwilling to be a part of it? If you don't want to, then why did you want to grab it in the first place? It's fun? At this time, the sixth princess came out. The little face said calmly, I don't want to. As soon as these words came out, the whole audience was shocked again. Ah! Don't you want to be the crown prince? This horse is the crown prince. It is the crown prince who has the power to supervise the country under the personal orders of His Majesty. What does that mean? This means that unless Shen Jian changes his mind in the future, the next leader of the country must be you. Why don't you want to? Are your generation of royal heirs really sick? For a while, many nobles were in confusion. The grimaces looked blankly at the 6 princesses in the audience and Shen Jian on the throne. They looked at each other speechlessly. See this? Shen Jian replied similarly. No, you do. No, I don't want to. No, you do. I do not want to. Would you like? No. Well, you don't want to. No, I am willing to. The words fell. The sixth princess seemed to react. Just as he was about to retort, Shen Jian already shrugged and said, "Okay, everyone has heard that you are willing. There is no joking under the throne, it's settled." Sixth princess. Her facial muscles twitched slightly. "You scheming bastard. You have worked really hard to push this crown prince out. Even psychological tactics were used. How much do you want to do nothing?" She screamed silently in her heart. On the surface, he looked calm. Under everyone's gaze, he accepted the royal order and officially became the crown prince of the Eli Empire. There is an extra dad on his head for no apparent reason. A group of nobles. Gan. Your behavior of evading each other really makes us have the urge to rush up and beat you up. You two are really not normal. Is it really okay for the Eli Empire to fall into the hands of such an unreliable new king and crown prince? This moment. Their faces were full of sorrow. There is a worry that the empire may be ruined. Not long after, a nobleman stood up. He is the Duke of the West, grandfather of the eldest prince. After Shen Jian completely captured the western territory, the Twilight Duke stayed in the royal city and acted as a transparent person. However, he stood up on the day when the new king succeeded to the throne, making everyone's eyes fall on him. To congratulate His Majesty on taking office, I specially brought a group of people to give you a big gift. The Grand Duke of the West's voice was hoarse. Looking at Shen Jian on the throne, his eyes were full of complexity. His territory was robbed, his foundation was taken away, and all his subordinates were slaughtered. The power he had worked hard for decades collapsed. Back before liberation, only the title of Duke was left. Logically speaking, he should hate Shen Jian. Right. But Game of Thrones is like that. Either you die or I live. Since he lost and was unwilling to die, the only thing he could do was to beg Shen Jian for forgiveness. In this way, he may have a chance to take charge of the western region again. Say it. 19 players headed by Adolf were brought up. Just a glance. The nobles present frowned. Because this group of people is too weak. Among the 19 people, only 3 were close to the abyss level in terror, and the remaining 16 were all weaklings below the Ghost King level. In this palace, even the palace maids and servants may have a higher level of terror than this group of people. What kind of gift is this to a bunch of weaklings? Many people think so. Those who were eager to show off in front of the new king raised their own questions on the spot. Your Majesty, where did you find this bunch of rubbish? How can such rubbish come into His Majesty's eyes? What are your intentions? A group of players. Grass. Although our terror level is not high, there is no need to yell trash every time, right? We are intelligent talents. The white 5-star player with the ID Adolf took a deep breath and looked at Shen Jian, who was standing on the throne with one hand on his face and a look of amusement on his face, feeling in awe. Don't dare to look directly. Then he knelt down on one knee and said respectfully, I have met your Majesty. The reason why our terror level is not high is because we are human beings, not ghosts. As soon as these words came out, the whole place exploded. Countless pairs of sinister and stern eyes fell on the 19 players for the first time. For a while, a terrifying and unusual supernatural threat suddenly enveloped the place. It made many Western players feel like they were dying, their legs and feet became weak, and they originally kneeled on one knee instead of kneeling on the ground. Don't blame them for being spineless, it's just that the threats in the hall are too terrifying to know. This is the palace of the Eli Empire, and it is also the first day of the new king's succession. All the nobles from the four realms and above the marquee in the royal city gathered here. The lowest level of terror is also the top ghost king, and a third of them are at the level of ghosts and gods. Only having weak legs and not being frightened to pee is already a reflection of their extremely high psychological quality. Adolf also turned pale, and felt that the ghosts he was driving were making frightened sounds. He hurriedly said, "Your Majesty, although we are human beings, we are useful. We can improve the flintlock gun, and we can make something more powerful than the flintlock gun, a powerful supernatural weapon. More importantly, we have brought His Majesty a way to expand the area of the Eli Empire several times. Hear this." The ghosts still looked coldly and glanced greedily, but the supernatural threat stopped. The land area has expanded several times, which is no joke. If what these humans say is true, then the Empire's power will enter a stage of rapid expansion, and nothing can be done carelessly. The other side. Hear this. Shen Jian, who was sitting on the throne, was thoughtful and said simply, "Say. Yes, Your Majesty, you must also know that we are just a group of poor people who were forcibly sent in by the horror game, but this time is different. Among the 50 humans sent in by the horror game, one of them is from the 3 game areas in the southern region of the horror world. City Lord, we have calculated that the total area of these 3 game areas is not much less than that of the Eli Empire, and the number of supernatural lands it possesses is countless. What's more important is that there are no ghosts and gods in the horror world. Just send a ghost and god to occupy these places. As long as Your Majesty mobilizes the power of the whole country to find this human being hiding in the dark, these unexplored treasure lands will all belong to Your Majesty." Adolf was impassioned, explaining the bright future to the new king of the Eli Empire. He believed that any new king who had just succeeded to the throne would want to make some achievements to prove his ability. And the horror world, a wasteland with vast resources but no ghost-level power, is undoubtedly the most fertile target. Any king who wants to expand his territory cannot resist this temptation. In particular, kings like the fourth prince who captured territory through war were even more enthusiastic in this regard. To this, he was very confident that he could convince the new king in front of him. Hear the words. There was a strange look in Shen Jian's eyes, and he couldn't help but sneer at the corner of his mouth. "Oh, then do you know what this human being looks like and what characteristics he has?" "This, Your Majesty, I'm sorry, that damn guy was hidden too deep and there is no trace at all, but we guess that his initial arrival place should be in the southern border. His terror level is at least at the top Ghost King level. He may be able to compete with ghosts and gods level, and his game ID is King of Yama. We can start from this aspect and search for all clues," Adolf suggested sincerely. In fact, he really didn't know much. Apart from the game ID and knowing that the other party is from the Dragon Kingdom and the City Lord of the horror world, the rest is all guesswork. It would be extremely difficult to find such a human being based on vague clues in such a vast and deep ghost realm. But, with all the strength of the Empire, this is not impossible. After all, the fact that the other party is a human being cannot be changed. As time goes by, the difference between ghosts and humans is still very obvious. Not to mention that there may be some kind of special supernatural being that can distinguish human beings in the deep ghost realm. As long as the new king believes his words and provides support, it is only a matter of time before he finds this King of Yama. Just thinking about it? A new message suddenly refreshed in the chat interface. "King Yama, I heard you are looking for me, how about looking up? See this." All players were stunned. What the hell is this guy from the Dragon Kingdom doing? Why send a sudden message at this time? And the other party seemed to know what they were doing, and also knew that they had found a new king of the empire. Look up. What to see? Subconsciously, 19 players, including Adolf, all raised their heads. That moment, their pupils are shaking. The moment he raised his head, the new king sitting on the throne had a sinister smile on his face. The expression seemed to be mocking, ridiculing, and playful. And the top of the other person's head. A line of game information appears. King of Yama. Level 64. At once. All the players were struck by lightning. I just felt a chill running straight through the sky. Yama, King of Yama? If they were not blind, at this moment, the new king of the Eli Empire would have a game ID that only the player had and could only see. That game ID was exactly the person from the Dragon Kingdom they were looking for. King Yama is the fourth prince and the new king. Think of this possibility. Everyone was dumbfounded. A completely dull look. His lips were trembling violently, as if it was unimaginable. It is difficult to accept that a human being has become the master of a deep ghost realm. He became the new king of the empire where Western players advanced in the horror world. Doesn't this mean that the Western world has been sanctioned? Being grabbed by the throat directly from the source? It's over. That moment. This thought popped into the minds of all Western ghost masters. Adolf's eyes were about to burst, and he pointed tremblingly at Shenjian, who was looking down at them on the throne. He wanted to say something, but couldn't. Because they know that everything is over. The moment they stepped into the palace, no, the moment the fourth prince became the new king, their ending was already doomed. Boring reaction. Shenjian waved his hand. The voice of ghosts and gods sounded. Drag him down and kill him. A simple sentence directly pronounced the fate of 19 players. From heaven to hell, that's all. Do it all. Shenjian glanced at the game panel. The final hidden plot, ascending to the throne, completed. The trial for the king has ended. Settlement in progress. Detected number of survivors in the current copy, 4. The player's current position is detected, the new king of the Eli Empire. It is detected that the remaining players have no positions. Player King Yama is the only winner. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shiyu Bulletin Chigwa. Chapter 896. With the official end of the king's trial. The scarlet panel also appeared immediately. This round of game has ended. Congratulations to the player for clearing the Bloody King Road dungeon. The copy is being settled. Rating, SS+. Experience gained, 1500%. Note, you have been promoted to level 67. Item obtained, Thriller Coin *100000. Obtain special reward, Taisha Liangshi Sect Heavenly Palace Permission. Note, the player collects the Royal Power Ring and the Divine Power Scepter, has completely recovered the Taisha Liangshi Zongtian Palace, becomes the master of Luo Fengtian, and can mobilize all the resources of the Eli Empire on his own. Receive special reward, the new king of the Eli Empire, title. Note, the player has exceeded the limit of branch tasks, unlocked the final hidden plot of the game identity, regained the 4 realms, and became the first king in history to complete the achievement of unification. The people's support is with you, and all your instructions will be unimpeded. Get special reward, Lord Buddha's suspicion. Note, the player has transformed the Bone Bodhisattva from the Buddhist kingdom, which has attracted the attention of the Lord of the Buddhist kingdom, who is suspicious of your identity. It is currently anchored in a special state. Under the special state, the player enters the supernatural world belonging to the Buddhist kingdom. The coordinates will be exposed automatically. Obtain special reward, 3 life stone fragments, 1/3. Note, players have collected legendary fragments of divine objects from the underworld, which have the incredible power to illuminate other people's past lives. If you collect 3 complete pieces, you will obtain the ownership of the 3 life stones. As the scarlet panel flashes, everything in front of me started to change. Shen Jian opened his eyes. He let out a long breath. Looking at the dense scarlet fonts, a strong smile appeared on his face. Nothing else. Great harvest. Needless to say, the most important authority of the Taisha Forgiveness X Heavenly Palace is the last indicator to unlock the Azura Path, one of the 6 paths of reincarnation. After unlocking the Azura Path, he is closer to allowing the complete 6 paths of reincarnation to reappear in the world. One step closer. The title effect of the second special reward is also very powerful. Title: The New King of the Eli Empire. Effect 1, equip this title, Pressure and Max, Reputation and Max, Intimidation and Maximum. Effect 2, all lineups with national attributes have trust at 100%. Effect 3, blessed by the national destiny of the Empire, the supernatural damage immunity is 50%, and the supernatural attack comes with a 40% damage bonus. This is a perfect title. The effect is so strong that it is unreal. Damage increase, damage immunity, and also comes with celebrity buffs, giving you a natural affinity at the beginning. After cancelling each other out, the negative effects of titles such as Dungeon Collapser and Ghost Seeing Sorrow will no longer affect him at all. After all, there is even some left over. When he enters the next dungeon, he will also be born with a favorability level of at 30. Have to say, he was very satisfied with this title. Subsequently, Shen Jian turned his attention to the game panel. Name: King Yama. Level: Level 67. Special status: Lord Buddha Suspicion. See this. Shen Jian's eyes narrowed slightly. Is this Buddha Lord Ksatigarba? Wrong. If this were Ksatigarba, it would be too inferior. Everyone has already turned their attention to him, but they still can't tell his identity. No matter how much Ksatigarba spreads his hips, he won't stretch his hips like this. This Lord Buddha should be the actual manager of the 4th place, Luo Fengtian. The authority belongs to Ksatigarba. It's like he is the king of the Eli Empire, but he lets the 6 queens supervise the country. Think of this. Shen Jian withdrew his gaze. The figure moved. The whole person has arrived at the 6 paths of reincarnation. 6 whirlpools appeared before his eyes. 4 of the whirlpools are rippling and are in an unlocked state. Tiandeo, unlocked. Azura Road, unlocked. Humanity, unlocked. Hell Path, unlocked. Beastway, unlocked. Hungry Ghost Road, unlocked. See this. Shen Jian's lips curled up. Just click on Azura Road. Azura Road, unlocked. Unlocking conditions: complete recovery of Sanzhou Luo Fengtian, completed. At the same time, the cold system prompts also sounded simultaneously. Mission: rebuild the underworld. Stage 4, unlock any of the 6 paths of reincarnation, completed. Reward: Seal of Reincarnation, exclusive to Emperor Fendu. See it? Shen Jian's eyes lit up. My mood couldn't help but start to fluctuate. Really? He was right. The unlocking of the Azura Path is related to Emperor Fendu. The Seal of Reincarnation, the exclusive token of the identity of Emperor Fendu. Its meaning is the same as the jade seal of the city god in the city god's hall. It is both a status symbol and a companion. Shen Jian stretched out his hand. A palm seal that glowed like a stone tablet fell into his hand. The seal is divided into 6 scales. Corresponds to the 6 paths of reincarnation. Not long after, Shen Jian flew to the soul. He clearly understood the true meaning given to him by this token of Emperor Fendu. Reincarnation. What he has gained now is the ability to master reincarnation. Think about it. In Shen Jian's body, the divine ability belonging to Chakravartin, the lord of the 10th palace of the underworld, is manifesting. A golden ring appeared behind him. The ring is also divided into 6 frames, and is fixed on a graceful figure that charms all living beings. This is the supernatural of Cleopatra. Past future body. You can summon yourself from the past 3 days and the next 3 days at the same time to help out. Before, when Shen Jian activated this supernatural power, 6 whirlpools would appear in the void in front of him, and 6 identical selves would walk out of them. And now, gone. After activating the supernatural power, nothing happened. Shen Jian knows. His worlds are unified. At all points in time, whether in the past or in the future, he has collapsed to the present, and he is the only one in this world. Even if there is a powerful ghost who has the ability to see into the past and the future, or even go back to the past, travel to the future, etc., he will no longer exist at any point in time that the opponent enters. Wherever he is, there is the only place. This is reincarnation. Gods and Buddhas all need reincarnation, but he doesn't. Because he is reincarnation itself. Shen Jian digested the various powers of the seal of reincarnation. The unity of all worlds is just a passive effect. In addition to this passive, he also has a passive effect. That is, mortals cannot look directly at themselves. This is not literal. Rather, it means that anyone who utters his name, imagines his appearance in his mind, or looks at his own photo is regarded as a kind of looking at him. And as long as you watch him, his life is in his hands. He looks at others, which has the same effect. With just one glance, he can completely manifest the opponent's past and present lives in reincarnation, and then follow the source to destroy the target. It can be said. As long as he watches, everything is over. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. His eyes were filled with emotion. They have not yet used the true magical power of the seal of reincarnation. Just inheriting the passivity of reincarnation is enough to make people despair. That is truly impossible to look at. Anyone who dares to peek into reincarnation will be swallowed up by it. With this, it can be said that no enemy can escape his pursuit. As long as the enemy dares to think about his name, think about his appearance, or even hear about him from others, he will be locked by reincarnation. Shen Jian thought of a sentence. If you meet the emperor and do not worship, your true name will be lost, and your name will be on the reincarnation monument. He feels this way now. For a long time, Shen Jian was calming down. The seal of samsara turned into a stream of light and disappeared between his eyebrows. Then, he returned his gaze to the 6 paths of reincarnation in front of him. At this time, the 5 whirlpools have rippled. Only the middle one is left, still a mass of gray. Shen Jian clicked on it. Tiandeo, unlocked. Unlocking conditions, the underworld descends to the human world, officially connects with the Yang world, and sends the souls of the dead into reincarnation. See this. Shen Jian looked slightly stunned. He was not asked to recycle the remaining 3 Luo Feng Tian. This was beyond his expectation. In his opinion, the condition for unlocking the Azura path is to recover 3 complete Luo Feng Tian pairs. According to this rule, the condition for unlocking the celestial path should be to recover the remaining 3 Luo Feng Tian pairs. However, but in fact, it's not. The only condition for unlocking the heavenly way is to let the underworld run and send the souls of the dead into reincarnation. Shen Jian was thoughtful. Want to do this? He needs to gather the last 2 fragments of the Sans Hung stone, find Mengpo, and complete the most important part of Mengpo soup. He did know a bit about Po Meng's traces. It is suspected to be located in the extremely yin place of Luo Feng Tian, the 5th place. But he had no clue about the fragments of the Sans Hung stone. Suddenly, Shen Jian seemed to have thought of something. Look down. He saw a bone head hanging on his waist, his eyes closed and he fell into a deep sleep. Shenjian did not hesitate. Slap him awake. Bone Bodhisattva? He opened his two recovered bone eye sockets in astonishment, and the ape light began to flash. Anger began to rise. Mad. Who bothered him to lick his wounds alone? If you really become a Buddha, you won't get angry? Do honest people deserve to be bullied? One look. Oh. It turns out that he is a master of great mercy who saves those in distress. That's okay. There must be a reason for the master to do this. Maybe I just want to see if I have a tolerant heart in this situation. The Bone Bodhisattva thought so. Immediately I stopped being angry. Looking ashamed. Master, I was wrong. Shenjian? He subconsciously said, what's wrong? But the next second he shook his head and said, the my Buddha you said refers to the Lord Buddha? What did you mean when you said he was in reincarnation before? The Bone Bodhisattva was startled. The upper and lower bones opened and closed, making a crisp skeletal sound. That's not the case. The Lord Buddha is the Lord Buddha. He is just the controller of the Buddha kingdom, similar to the king of the Eli Empire, and I Buddha is the founder of the Buddha kingdom. Is our mentor who teaches us Buddhist principles. As for being in reincarnation. The words paused for a moment, and then he explained, the Buddhist kingdom is actually a large-scale place of reincarnation, or a super-large supernatural place constructed by my Buddha in his sleep. Everything inside revolves around my Buddha as the center. We jointly prepare for the reincarnation of my Buddha for hundreds of lives. Speak English. Oh, my Buddha will be reincarnated in hundreds of lives. As long as he realizes himself clearly in each life, refines his mind in the world of mortals, and gives up his obsession, after 100 lives, my Buddha will be able to wake up and break through his own limits. Lead the Buddhist kingdom to regain the power of the Buddha in the past. Shenjian narrowed his eyes. What life is he in now? The 99th life. End of this chapter. Something strange is coming? Fortunately, I am the king of hell of the 10th palace. Author, Shi Yubuletin Chigwa. Chapter 897. Listening to Bone Bodhisattva's explanation, Shenjian's eyes became darker and darker. Reincarnation for hundreds of lives is indeed a professional saying in Buddhism. In the eyes of Buddhism, reincarnation is not a kind of torture, but a test that can make people transcend. As long as you don't understand the truth of the impermanence of the world in reincarnation and eliminate all the troubles that lead to life and death, you can be reincarnated and die. Beyond the 3 realms and 5 realms, achieve transcendence and achieve the status of Buddha. But does Ksitigarbha still need a breakthrough? In myths and legends, Ksitigarbha is the Bodhisattva of karma and the incarnation of Buddha. It is rumored that Ksitigarbha Bodhisattva is also the incarnation of Buddhas in the 10 directions. The reason why he did not become a Buddha is just because he made the great wish that hell will not be empty. If you don't become a Buddha, otherwise you would already be a Buddha. In terms of strength, this non-staff person with a special status in the underworld has a power comparable to any of the kings of hell in the 10 palaces of hell, or even slightly higher. Only the ghost emperors of the 5 directions and the great emperor Fengdu dare to claim that they can overwhelm them. Certainly. This refers to personal combat power. If the Yamas of the 10 palaces join forces, even if the ghost emperors from all 5 directions come together, they can't say that they can surely win. After all, in terms of status, the 5 directions ghost emperor is only half a step higher than the 10th palace Yama. Such a being who is comparable to Buddha wants to make another breakthrough? Breakthrough of what? Have you achieved the body of a true Buddha and come to the position of Buddha? Think of this. Shenjian went deeper. He doesn't believe this. In this era where the gods and Buddhas in the sky have died, heaven no longer exists, and the underworld has disappeared, the era of gods has ended. The current order of heaven and earth is dominated by ghosts, and it is an era of supernatural revival. No matter who it is, as long as they want to have power comparable to that of gods and gods, they will inevitably be tainted with the aura of ghosts. In this era, it is as difficult as reaching the sky to break through the upper limit. Almost impossible. What's more, even if Ksitigarbha really found a way to break through the long years, what he would achieve would not be the body of a true Buddha, but the body of a ghost Buddha. Even Shenjian also thought, is this Buddha really making a breakthrough instead of healing? After all, even existences like the great emperor of Fengdu, the ghost emperor of the 5 directions, and Yama of the 10 palaces disappeared along with the entire underworld. How could Ksitigarbha escape safely? Thinking, Shenjian came to his senses. He continued to ask, how does he reincarnate? The Bone Bodhisattva paused for a moment. I don't know, because when we came to my Buddha, the Buddha's kingdom had been established and completed, but I had close contact with my Buddha during his 34th reincarnation. There, I saw the true body of the Buddha, a huge stone tablet towering into the sky, with a corner missing. The Buddha was sleeping in the stone tablet, and everything around him was in ruins. Shenjian was thoughtful. That's why you know that the Buddhist kingdom is not a real world at all, but an illusory place formed by a ghost realm. The real 4th place, Luo Fengtian, is actually only a ruin. The Bone Bodhisattva nodded dully. Shenjian didn't feel any fear. It's just the Buddha's kingdom in the palm of your hand. Nothing surprising. And the Bone Bodhisattva is in over his head. Although the Buddhist kingdom is not the real Luo Fengtian's current situation, the Buddhist kingdom does exist, but the living environment has become a ghost land. To put it in a more fashionable way, the 4th place, Luo Fengtian, is the outer world, while the Buddhist kingdom is the inner world. The two do not interfere with each other, but they are integrated into each other. Certainly. This is not the point. The point is, he did get clues about the 3 life stones from the White Bone Bodhisattva. His previous guess was correct. Ksitigarbha's hundreds of reincarnations relied on the power of the 3 life stones. All it takes is a trip to the Buddhist kingdom to collect the remaining fragments of the 3 life stones. Very good. Shenjian showed a satisfied smile. The clue problem of Sansei stone has been solved. The next most important thing is undoubtedly Mengpo soup. In fact, the 6 paths of reincarnation can already be run. In addition to the path of gods, others such as the path of Asura, the path of humanity, the path of hell, the path of animals, and the path of hungry ghosts have long been unlocked and can send the dead souls into reincarnation. The reason why it was not opened is because of the lack of Mengpo Tang. Mengpo Tang can make the soul of the deceased forget the past and present lives and reincarnate with new memories. Without this, the soul of the deceased will be born with the memory of the past life. By then, the Yang world will be in chaos. There are rebirthers and travelers everywhere. This is not allowed by the underworld. Therefore, only the 6 paths of reincarnation will remain stranded. Now, it's time to put it on the agenda. Shenjian thought a lot. The conditions for unlocking the heavenly way do not require that Luo Fengtian's authority be reclaimed, but as the lord of the underworld, he cannot just watch the things in the underworld wander outside. Even if he does not bring them back to the underworld, they still need to be in his hands. Whether he is looking for the Sans Hung stone or retrieving Mengpo, he needs to go to other Luo Fengtian. He can recover it without any trouble. Real world. Shenjian took one step forward. The figure immediately appeared at an altitude of 10,000 meters. He didn't alert anyone. Just quietly looking at this world filled with supernatural beings. Look far away. On the eastern continent, the underworld is expanding at an extremely fast rate. In the 21 provinces of the Dragon Kingdom, the underworld has spread its footprints to 7 provinces. If you look at the map, with Ziping province as the center, the underworld has successively occupied 3 surrounding provinces, and then spread in a single line in the direction of Nanlin province. Because the three provinces to the west of Nanlin province are the national border. Going further, it is the territory of the western continent and the territory of the Holy See. According to Shen Jian's original plan, he planned to occupy the entire Dragon Kingdom and then spread to the western realm to occupy the whole world, which even the underworld in the mythical age had not been able to do. But the western continent took the initiative to cooperate with the horror world and allowed a copy of the game to come to the real world. It was so deeply eroded by the evil ghosts that it was ready to launch a war and start a world war. To this end, the underworld can only change its target first and take the initiative to spread to the western world. Thinking. A red dot appeared on the chat interface. Shen Jian glanced away. Jana, Your Majesty, things are going according to my plan. Adolf and his party were all wiped out in the dungeon, which caused an uproar in the Holy See. I took the opportunity to tell the truth about becoming a 5-star player, and my family immediately took action. Let me become one of the 12 seats of the Holy See, and I got more specific information about the Lord God's plan. King Yama, tell me. Jana, the main god plan attempts to create 12 main gods of the West according to the current information: the king of gods Zeus, the queen Hera, the sea god Poseidon, the war goddess Athena, the sun god Apollo, and the war god Athena. The 6 main gods of Greece have begun to take shape and are widely believed in the Western world. In addition, the Holy See has also formulated the Archangel Michael, the angel Gabriel, Hades, the Lord of Hades, and Odin, the Lord of Alaska. Wait for the temples of mainstream Western gods. Jana, because of the full support of the Holy See, no less than thousands of similar temples have been built across the West in recent months. In order to speed up the collection of beliefs, a large number of supernatural props have also been used. According to this trend, the power of faith required for the birth of the 12 main gods can be collected in less than a month. Jana, who was far away on the other side of the Atlantic, looked at the information in her hand and couldn't help but take a breath. Crazy. This move by the Holy See is too crazy. In less than 3 months, more than 3,000 new temples were built. I don't know how much manpower and material resources were used. The amount of money and resources consumed is countless. Almost half of the entire Western power was expended on this. There is quite a kind of madness in trying to lose everything and succeed if you don't succeed. Certainly. The effect is also significant. Western people saw the sincerity of the Holy See and the truth after the Holy See's guidance. They changed their own doctrines one by one and worshipped a series of mainstream gods introduced by the Holy See. In less than 3 months, faith has been collected. If one could really create 12 ghosts and gods, the outcome would be unimaginable. The Holy See will become king of the world. But she still chose to betray and pass the information to Shen Jian. For the real world, the birth of 12 ghosts and gods means invincibility. But she had seen with her own eyes the great power displayed by Shen Jian. It is an invincible majesty. It has been imprinted on her heart and cannot be removed. Compared with the Holy See, she is more willing to believe that Shen Jian is the light of hope for mankind. King Yama, where did the most important body of ghosts and gods come from? See this. Jana immediately opened the information. Suddenly he looked startled. Jana, Your Majesty, there is no information about this part. I tried to use my power of 12 seats to search, but I couldn't find any information about this part. King Yama, well, keep checking. Shen Jian looked away. Think for a moment. At the beginning, he thought that the way for the Holy See to collect the bodies of ghosts and gods came from the Eli Empire, and that it might have colluded with the royal family, but now, he is the new king of the Eli Empire. He has investigated and found that there is no such contact between the Eli Empire and the Holy See. Suspicion can be ruled out. If you put it this way, the source can only be the Buddhist kingdom. Shen Jian clicked his tongue. In this Buddhist country, the tentacles are very long. There are plans not only in the horror world, but also in the Qing Kingdom and the City of Entertainment. The Yulai Empire also has the Ghost Bodhisattva, the Bone Bodhisattva. Now, the real world seems to be within the scope of the intervention of the Buddha Kingdom. But think about it. The Kingdom of Buddha holds many game rights for horror games. It is very likely that he is the ultimate heir to the thriller game like him. It is not difficult to spread his footprints in these places. Fortunately, Kshitigarbha did not wake up, but only handed over part of his authority. Under such circumstances, the Buddha Kingdom could not interfere too much in the operation of the thriller game, otherwise it would not just leave traces, but fully occupy it. Think about it. Shen Jian opened the game panel. Take a look at thriller game permissions. Thriller game authority, 35%. Occupy 3 game areas and gain a total of 15% game rights. Recycle Kingguo and get 10%. Recycle the Eli Empire, gain 10%. As for the recycling of Entertainment City, because the recycling location is not in the world of thriller, the little scoundrel game thriller found the bug and refused to give the game permission. So the current total is 35%, accounting for 1/3 of the complete permissions for thriller games. He guessed that this was almost the case in the Buddhist kingdom. He also needs to be faster. Think of this. Shen Jian clicked on the authority of Taisha Liangshi Zone Tiangong, and a 2-realm passage immediately appeared in front of him. Shen Jian stepped into it. The player has entered the territory of Eli Empire. Selected coordinates, Elim Temple.